Now, this, of course, comes as we enter day 26 of the UAW strike against Detroit's Big Three.
And the impact of that strike continues to add up. Stellantis and Ford announced new rounds of layoffs. Meanwhile, General Motors has a new proposal.
The automaker's offering a 20% wage increase over the life of the contract, with a 10% bump in the first year. General Motors says that this would see almost all UAW employees at the company making about $82,000 a year in base wages by the end of the agreement.
Now, cost of living adjustments, or COLA, would be reinstated for union members at maximum wages starting in year 2. And the time it would take to make maximum wages would be cut from 8 years to just 4. But the economic impact is now being felt, and it is tallying in the billions. And it's making an impact both locally and across the country.
7 Action News reporter Peter Maxwell is joining us live in Wayne this morning. And Peter, how many more people are being temporarily laid off?
Well, for Stellantis, they're temporarily laying off 570 employees at its plants in Trenton and Kokomo, Indiana. 520 of those employees are at the plant in Trenton, and Ford announcing it's also laying off 71 employees at its transmission plant in Livonia, and that's due to the plant shutdown in Chicago. The economic impact of the UAW strike against the Big Three automakers is being felt far and wide. The strike has resulted in over $5 billion in losses, which include Ford, GM, and Stellantis, suppliers, dealers, and customers, and in direct wages. And those direct wages totaling $579 million. The big question: how much longer can this strike go on before catastrophic effect? Patrick Anderson, the CEO of the Anderson Economic Group, explains.
This has already had very serious effects for the families involved, and that includes not only striking workers, but also some of the small businesses that are in the supplier network that are basically told they don't know whether their product is going to be sold, and they either lay off workers or they can't pay them.
Angelina Ontiveros works at the Centerline Distribution Center, and she's striking for the two-tier and temporary workers, as well as the generation to come.
What I'm caring about is our job security. And if they are losing all this money, they could have used that money to just pay us.
For the striking workers, like Angelina and her co-worker Mike Kaminsky, they're only getting $500 per week in strike pay.
It's hard to have this go on and drag on as long as it has, but again, we're just looking for what's fair.
And the economic losses are far greater this time around than in 2019, when the UAW went on strike against GM for 6 weeks.
One is the strategy by the UAW has been different. They've affected all 3 automakers. They've affected their supplier network much more. They've reached out and affected dealers. And of course, that's part of a strike is you create pain for the business and the employers as well as for the workers. And so far during these 26 days of the strike, the Big Three have lost $2.6 billion, and that number is only expected to grow. Reporting in Wayne this morning, I'm Peter Maxwell, 7 Action News.
Yeah, a bigger dent in just 3.5 weeks roughly versus 6 weeks back in 2019. Peter, thank you for that live update.